Result. The majority leader is recognized to continue sponsoring the measure and to interpolate Senator Dante Marcoleta.
We'd just like to put on record, Mr. President, we are joined today with a few members of the Parliament, BTA Parliament, particularly Attorney Nagib Sinaminimbo is with us. Also helped us from the craft the Bangsamoro Organic Law, Mr. President.
Yes, okay. We welcome them to the Senate this afternoon.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Mr. President, at the outset, I want to manifest my full support to the measure sponsored by our majority leader, Senator Migs, for the bill seeking to reset the first regular elections in Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao to the second Monday of September 2026 and every 3 years thereafter. I would like to raise, however, Mr. President, a few questions on the proposed measure. Mr. President, I would like to seek clarifications regarding the legal readiness of the Bangsamoro electoral framework, particularly on districting, which is essential for the conduct of elections. We recall that Bangsamoro Autonomy Acts, BAA numbers 58 and 77, were declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in October 2025 because the parliamentary districts were not contiguous or adjacent, among other reasons. As a result, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority was directed to pass a valid districting law by October 30, 2025, extended until November 30, 2025, so that Commission on Elections could proceed with elections not later than March 31, 2026. Mr. President, we note that the BTA now enacted BAA 86, a redistricting law on January 12, 2026, which was approved by the Interim Chief Minister on January 20, 2026, thus addressing the Court's directive, albeit beyond the original deadline. Without delving into the reasons for the missed deadline, Mr. President, I would like to be clarified. What specific steps, legal reviews or consultations were undertaken to ensure that BAA 86 fully complies with the Supreme Court's ruling, particularly on the requirements of contiguity and adjacency of districts?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Nung nagkaroon po kami ng committee hearing, yan ang unang-unang tinanong ko, Mr. President, sa kanila, na baka naman maging unconstitutional muli itong BAA 86 na pinasa nila, amendments to the Electoral Code. Pero pinakita naman po nila sa amin, and we had a constitutionalist at that time, which was former Supreme Court Justice Ascuna, and it showed clearly, one of the issues was the gerrymandering. Ibig po sabihin, yung may distrito po sila na nasa isang lugar, tapos may isang bayan na malayo-malayo kasama sa distritong yon. So nagka-problema po sila sa gerrymandering, ika nga. It was not contiguous. They were able to resolve it under BAA 86. So yung mga malalayo ay sinama na dun sa kabilang distrito at hindi na po nila sinama. Yung pangalawa ay yung violation ng under the law, which is the 120 days, you cannot change the precincts within the 120 days prior to the elections, no? So, ang nangyari po dyan, before October 2025, which was our law that we passed here, I believe it was Senator Amy Marcos who sponsored it, Republic Act 12123, which provided the date of elections of October 2025. Ang nangyari po, lumabas itong BAA 77 prior or after the 120 days was already starting. So obviously the Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional, not of course not in accordance to the law that was passed on the Electoral Code. and also the gerrymandering. Those were the two main issues. So dito po sa BAA 86, Mr. President, itong bagong amendments to the Electoral Code, ginawa na po nilang maayos na dun sa gerrymandering issue, inayos na po yan. At kaya nga po, pasok tayo sa 120 days kung gagawin po natin siyang second Monday of September 2026, which according to Chairman George at that time was enough time for him to be within the 120-day period, Mr. President, Your Honor.
So, Mr. President, what assurances do we have that the BAA 86 can withstand constitutional scrutiny? Because the upcoming elections will not again be jeopardized sana kung walang unconstitutionality
Yes.
pending or potential nullification of the redistricting law by BAA 86. Paano, Mr. President, kung naging unconstitutional? That is the problem.
Well, we will not be able to predict, Mr. President, if there will be someone who will question this law and, of course, BAA 86. But I believe that the members of parliament of the BTA, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, was able to comply with the requirement of the Supreme Court to address the issues of unconstitutionality. Particularly po sa gerrymandering, talagang tinanggal na po nila yung malalayong lugar at sinama na po nila ang mga districts, Mr. President. So, I trust the wisdom of this new BAA 86 to be compliant with the constitutional requirements brought about by the Supreme Court ruling. As a matter of fact, we had several legal luminaries during the hearing. As I mentioned, nandun po si Justice Ascuna. And Justice Ascuna mismo nagsabi na with these discussions, this was during the end of the committee hearing, Your Honor, after 4 hours of listening to both sides, nagsalita po siya na he feels it will be compliant. Of course, we cannot guess what the court will decide later on if there will be someone who will be filing a question to the Supreme Court on this particular issue. But we feel in the committee, Mr. President, my dear colleague, Senator Dante, is that we are compliant with the constitutional issues addressed by the Supreme Court ruling.
Meaning to say, Mr. President, we are assuming that nobody will raise the issue of constitutionality with BAA 86, and that if somebody does it, the Supreme Court will simply judge it constitutional. That these are our presumptions.
That is our prayer, Mr. President, yes.
And you share that optimism, Mr. Majority Leader, Mr.
Yes,
President.
yes, sir, Mr. President.
Good luck.
Ultimately, what we want is more peace, Mr. President. Ang worry ko lang is, there are people who want to throw a monkey wrench, Mr. President, with the permission, of course, of Senator Marcoleta. I just want to expound. There are people who want to throw a monkey wrench in the peace process in Mindanao. The best way to destroy the peace process in Mindanao is to subvert their mandate by not allowing elections. So kung palagi tayong postpone, magkakagera talaga muli sa amin po, sa Mindanao, particularly sa Bangsamoro region. Kaya we are hoping that the Supreme Court this time will render this new Bangsamoro Autonomy Act of 86 as constitutional, Mr. President.
Let's move to the electoral framework, Mr. President. We understand that the BTA also passed BAA 88 on January 28, 2026, which amended BAA 35 or the Bangsamoro Electoral Code, which was enacted in March 2023. Given that the BTA had nearly 3 years since the passage of Electoral Code, Mr. President, may I respectfully seek clarification on the following. First, what are the key amendments introduced by BAA 88 and why are these changes necessary at this stage of the electoral timeline?
I believe when it comes, one major reform, Mr. President, is the manner of voting for sectoral representatives, when representatives from the women, youth settler communities, ulama, and traditional leader sectors will now be elected through direct voting by the people, while the non-Moro indigenous peoples will continue to be chosen through an assembly-based process kasi meron po silang FPIC, which is the Free Prior Informed Consent. Traditional po yan sa kanila. So registered parliamentary sectoral organizations will also be allowed to field their nominees or candidates whose names will appear on the ballot. Another important change is the reduction of the electoral threshold for regional parliamentary political parties from 4% to 2.5%, making it easier for smaller parties to gain representation. In addition, the membership requirement has been lowered from 10,000 to 5,000 members, with membership now required to be distributed across the majority of provinces, cities, and municipalities within BARM rather than across all provinces. Lastly, all parliamentary sectoral organizations, regional parliamentary political parties are required to undergo registration and accreditation, which mandates the Commission to issue implementing rules and conduct the process of registration and accreditation ahead of the filing of certificates of candidacy, manifestations of intent to participate, and similar submissions, Mr. President.
What circumstances or developments prompted these amendments to be made only very recently, considering that they directly affect COMELEC's preparations, particularly in the accreditation of political parties and even sectoral organizations?
Yeah. Actually, I asked, because umalma din yung ibang sectors, bakit nawala yung original plan, which is also chosen through assembly-based process. The problem with the assembly-based process, Mr. President, is parang magtatawag ka ng tao, tapos magkakaroon ng election dun sa assembly. We felt that that was more unconstitutional, Mr. President, because the best way to actually carry the voice of a sector is through regular type of elections where the women's sector is elected by all members of the BARM areas, all provinces, all districts that will be able to participate. Ang mangyayari kasi dyan, baka may isang assembly lang po sa Cotabato at sasabihin nila, itong aming member sa kababaihan. So women, paano naman kung nagkaroon din ng assembly dun sa Tawi-Tawi, nagkaroon din sa Basilan, sino pipiliin ng BTA or the Bangsamoro Parliament na talagang magdadala ng boses ng kababaihan? So the best way to do it is really through an electoral process where they get to choose. So yung hindi lang pong ginawa ng ganyan is to respect also their customs and traditions are the indigenous peoples, yung mga non-Moro IPs, kasi meron talaga silang assembly-based process. As a matter of fact, sa Bukidnon, kakatapos lang, although they're not from BARM, we just elected our IPMR that's the Indigenous Peoples Member Representative in the Sangguniang Panlalawigan. Tapos ang nangyari dyan ay may sarili silang proseso sa pagpili. Hindi po halalan, parang nagme-meeting po lahat ng mga IPs from the different towns at sila po ang nagde-declare sino yung magiging member of the provincial board. So, ganun din ang mananatili sa non-Moro IPs. But for all the others, Mr. President, to avoid confusion and possibly conflict, the best way to do it is mahalal na po sila. They have to register na ako po, si so-and-so, representative ng youth sa COMELEC, at ilalagay na po yung pangalan po ng grupo nila doon at ihalal po sila sa kababaihan at sa iba't ibang sektor. On the issue naman po, is the reduction of the electoral threshold for the regional political parties from 4% to 2.5% is to allow more representation, Your Honor. Kasi ang nangyayari, iisa lang o dadalawa lang pong grupo ang makakuha ng 4% at makakuha ng 10,000 members distributed all around the provinces. Kawawa naman yung mas maliliit na grupo po, Your Honors. There's several smaller groups of our Bangsamoro brothers and sisters that want to also participate in the parliamentary elections but cannot do so because of the very prohibitive number of 10,000 members in each community. or province or city plus a threshold of 4% total. So, medyo malaki po. Kasi 4% total population of BARM is in the hundreds of thousands din, di ba? Malaki din yung 4%. So, binabaan na lang po para mas inclusive po siya.
I'm only interested, Mr. President, on how optimistic you can be, considering that these changes were made very, very recently. But if these changes are really significant and they contribute to the orderly conduct of the elections in the BARM, I have no problems with that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with you to that, sir.
Mr. President, a very urgent petition was filed before the Supreme Court asking the High Court to declare as unconstitutional the appointments of BTA's Chief Minister Abdul Rauf Makakwa and 5 other BTA members. The petitioners argued that Article 16, Section 2 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law states that the MILF shall lead the BTA in recognition of its role in the peace process in Mindanao without prejudice to the participation of the Moro National Liberation Front. It is argued that the Bangsamoro Parliament is composed of 80 members all over the region, but only 34 MILF members were appointed, and that the MILF endorsed members should be at least 41 instead of 34 for the legislative measures to prevail. Should the Supreme Court rule in favor of the petitioners and declare the appointments as unconstitutional, what will be its effect?
There will be an absence of authority. Kaya nga po, Mr. President, yung gusto ko po, personal opinion ko po is, kaya dapat talaga magkaroon ng halalan. Kasi kung right now we are operating on a temporary state.
Ako gusto ko rin po eh. Kasi matagal na talaga yan eh.
I totally agree
Ang
with
problema
you, sir.
po, paano kung, halimbawa, kaya tanong ko, paano kung dineclare na naman na constitutional? Will it have the effect of, again, resetting
Hindi naman po,
the
sir.
election?
Hindi naman po, sir.
Sana
ang
po,
mangyayari
di ba?
kasi, ang mangyayari kasi dyan, I believe that Malacanang would have to learn its lesson and will have to appoint 41 members of the MILF and more members of the MNLF. Their contention with me is that Chief Minister Makakwa is a member of the MILF. Although maybe another faction, kasi faction din po sila. There's a government faction, and there's of course the ideologue faction of Chairman Murad. So the only way to answer that, Your Honor, to be honest about it, and I think we all agree, let's take it to a vote and let the people decide once and for all. I think that would be the best, Mr. President.
But in the, I would say, remote possibility that the Supreme Court will hold it unconstitutional, will it affect BAA 86, Mr.
Hindi naman
President?
po, sir. Hindi naman po, sir.
You are
Hindi
sure,
naman.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Hindi naman po, sir. Kasi batas po siya. So it's a law it's a national law declaring the date already of the elections, which the COMELEC will be already prioritizing, at the same time also preparing for, including the registration of the new party list members and all the members of the different districts. I think it will not affect the election per se, because that's a different topic altogether. Ang mangyayari siguro dyan, maging null and void po yung position ni na Chief Minister Makakwa kung lumabas po na Supreme Court ruling tungkol dyan na unconstitutional yan, and they will have to appoint within the parameters of the BOL law, which basically is the 41 members coming from the MILF, and I think they'll just have to comply with that. But the elections, Mr. President, Senator Marcoleta, I don't think it will be hampered in any way on the date of the elections.
So from today until the second Monday of September 2026, we will have to keep our fingers crossed, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Thank
We
you,
are praying
Mr.
for that.
President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you.
To continue interpellation, the Senator Ping Lacson, the President Pro Tem, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, let me clarify that I am not objecting to the measure under consideration. Rather, this is a manifestation of concern, particularly on a potential constitutional infirmity. I will cite Article 18 of the Constitution, transitory provision. No? And I will deal with that by way of citing Abbas Kida versus Senate of the Philippines, GR number 196271, October 18, 2011. Nireaffirm po ng Supreme Court yung constitutional mandate for synchronized national and local elections under the 1987 Constitution, recognizing synchronization as a core constitutional principle that shapes the structure of Filipino democratic governance, Mr. President. Yung Court's decision upheld Republic Act number 10153, the statute that reset the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, or ARM, elections to coincide with regular synchronized elections. Kasi ginawa natin noon, second Monday of May.
Yes, sir.
But under the measure, particularly or specifically Section 1, that seeks to amend Section 13, Article 16 of Republic Act number 11054, otherwise known as the Organic Law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, inaamin po natin na ginagawa nating second Monday of September 2026 and every 3 years thereafter. So does it mean na
Hindi
maging
masisynchronize.
permanent na po ito na every second Monday of September?
That was the idea, Mr. President, but I agree to your proposed amendment when we discussed it on the
At the
on
proper
floor.
time.
The proper time, Your Honor.
Yes.
I accept na kaagad. I accept that we synchronize it. And I believe the good gentleman from Cavite has the perfect amendment.
Regarding the terms of elective officials. Pero sabi ko, wag na natin pag-usapan muna
Yes, sir.
yon.
Yes, sir.
Because what I will be proposing later during the period of amendments is that payagan na nating mag-extend sila. No?
Yes, sir.
If we hold this particular election in September
Yes, sir.
2026, let them extend their term of office hanggang sa June 30 of 2028.
June
2031.
2031. Yes, sir.
2031.
Yes, sir.
Napaboran na sila ng how many months, Your Honor?
1 year and 17 months.
Never mind that. Sa kanila natin itackle pag may nag-question sa
Opo.
Supreme Court. But that's all that I have to express, Mr. President. And at the proper time, I will introduce my my proposed amendment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Mr.
very much,
President.
Mr. President.
And I will gladly accept. I agree with the good gentleman from Cavite, Mr. President. Mr. President, the last to interpolate, I believe, is our distinguished minority floor leader, but he's not here at the moment. We can suspend, Mr. President. I move to suspend consideration till tomorrow, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of the measure is suspended.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ask for a minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session suspended.
Mr. President, our distinguished colleague, Senator Erwin Tulfo, would like to avail of the privilege hour. May we recognize the distinguished gentleman from Palawan, the Republic of the Philippines.
Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise on a matter that strikes the very heart of the rule of law, the protection of our people. The local government of San Fernando, Bukidnon did not issue a building or construction permit to the Cabanglasan Hydropower Plant, a subsidiary of the Repower Energy Development Corporation. Walang permit, Ginoong Pangulo, pero itinayo pa rin. Parang kahalintulad po ito sa minahan sa Dupax del Norte, Nueva Vizcaya, na wala ngang permit sa LGU, pero nag-operate. Since when did compliance become optional? Kailan pa naging baliwala ang kapangyarihan ng local government? In November 2025, during its test run, the plant allegedly released waters that flooded the crops of nearly 100 farmers. Homes were left on the brink of collapse. Livelihoods were wiped out in a single surge. And where were the regulators, Mr. President? Where was the Department of Energy? Where was the Energy Regulatory Commission? Where was the Department of Environment and Natural Resources? Bakit tila walang agarang aksyon? Bakit tila tahimik habang nalulunod ang ating mga kababayan? Hindi po tuloy maiwasan na mag-isip ng mga kababayan natin sa Bukidnon kung mga bulag po ba ang mga hensyang ito o natapala na naman ng salapi ang mga mata nila. Renewable energy, Mr. President, must not become a shield for regulatory shortcuts. Yes, development must never bulldoze the law. If a project can rise without a permit and operate without clear accountability, then we are sending a dangerous message that power and influence outweigh compliance. This is not just about one hydropower plant in Bukidnon. This is about whether government agencies will enforce the law or look the other way while communities drown. I therefore call for an immediate Senate investigation in aid of legislation to determine why construction proceeded without a local building permit, whether the Department of Energy and Department of Environment and Natural Resources failed in their oversight, and who will answer for the damages suffered by our farmers. Mr. President, the people of San Fernando deserve protection, not neglect. If laws were ignored and regulators were silent, then this Senate will be the voice of the people. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Majority Leader.
Yes, I'd like to move that the speech of the gentleman from Palawan and the Republic of the Philippines be referred to the Committee on Energy, Mr. President, and Environment as the secondary committee.
So referred to the Committee on Energy and Environment.
Yes, I'm quite familiar with that particular hydro plant, Mr. President. It's supposed to be a run-of-river hydro plant, but I do not know why the design allowed it to do damming. When you do a run-of-river, alam po ni Senator Sherwin Gatchalian yan, kasi dating chairman ng Committee on Energy, when you do a run-of-river hydro plant, it's not supposed to disturb the river system, the river ecosystem. Kasi nangyayari dyan, you have a point where the head race collects the water, brings it down to a turbine, through a pipe to a turbine area producing power, and then the water is released into the river. In this case, there was a design of a dam which is not allowed under the development of a run-of-river project. So, anong nangyari, yung mga magsasaka po namin sa Bukidnon, lalo-lalo na sa San Fernando area, nung umulan ng malakas nung nakarang ilang buwan, ay nabaha po ang ating mga magsasaka. Kaya naawa po kaming lahat. Tumaas kasi yung water table niya, tumaas at yun, marami po sa aming mga magsasaka na IPs pa, indigenous peoples, ay natamaan. So, we'd like to thank, of course, the good gentleman from Palawan, the Republic of the Philippines, Senator Erwin Tulfo, for looking at this. And hopefully during the hearings, they can explain why this had happened, and also explain why there's lacking of any documents. I'm also, full disclosure, Mr. President, I'm in the renewable energy business, and definitely before you can get a service contract or anything from the DOE, from other government agencies, kailangan may local government approval. So much so, dapat may sanggunian bayan approval yan, may sanggunian panlalawigan approval, at sanggunian barangay approval. So dapat yan, tatlo kompleto ang dokumento. So kung tama po sinabi ni Senator Erwin, kung wala po silang sanggunian bayan approval from the local government, then that's a different story altogether, Mr. President. So I just wanted to put that on record. Next, Mr. President, is compliant kami. Sunday yung ginagawa. Compliant kami. Puro legal. Mr. President, I move that we consider Senate Bill Resolution 1819 under Committee Report number 27. This is the online sexual abuse and exploitation of children. The status is we are in the period of interpellation, and we'll take this opportunity, Mr. President, that our good, very active, most active member of the Senate is here, Senator Wing Gatchalian, to interpellate the distinguished sponsor, Senator Risa Ontiveros, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Senate Bill 1819's consideration is in order. We recognize the sponsor, Senator Risa Ontiveros, and to interpolate the the Bachelor of the Senate, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian.
Ako po, tunay na bachelor. Marami pong nagpapanggap, SP. Well, the good gentle lady from Iloilo, from
Capiz and Aklan, Mr.
Capiz, sorry.
President.
From Panay
Sorry,
Island.
Mr. President.
From Panay
Opo.
Island yield
Salamat,
to
good gentleman.
a few questions.
Yes, Mr. President.
First of all, let me commend Her Honor for once again coming up with a very important measure. And nung binabasa ko po yung bill at rinireview ko po yung statistics about OSAIC, which is for the information of our constituents, those who are listening to us, ay anti-online sexual abuse and exploitation of children, and CSAM, Anti-Child Sexual Abuse and Exploitation Materials. Ito po ay napakahalaga at timely po itong panukalang batas na ito dahil talaga po nakakalungkot man sabihin at talagang nakakadugo po sa ating puso na malaki po ang problema ho natin pagdating sa OSAIC dito po sa ating bansa. Dahil po ang internet ay nagiging laganap, widely used, ang reach ngayon ng internet ay masasabi natin halos buong bansa na, kahit na sa sulok-sulukan ay meron na ho tayong internet, courtesy of technologies like Starlink, wireless technologies like satellite technologies, and also affordability. And because internet connection now is becoming more affordable, there are several packages to make internet accessible and affordable to our constituents. The downside of this is this type of exploitation of our children. And nung binabasa ko po yung mga datos, dumudugo po yung aking puso dahil according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, ang ating bansa ay pangalawa sa dami ng bilang ng OSAIC sa buong mundo. At nakakadugo po ito ng puso dahil bata po yung binibiktima. At karamihan po sa mga nakikita natin sa media, nakikita natin sa news, yung mga bata musmus pa ho. At hindi ho nila alam kung ano yung ginagawa sa kanila. Ang nakakadugo rin po ng puso, karamihan po ng gumagawa nito ay mga kakilala nila o mga kamag-anak nila. So talagang ito po ay isang problema na dapat ho natin masugpo at matanggal ho yung bansag sa atin na second highest in the world. Pilitin ho natin mawala yung ganitong mga krimen sa ating bansa. Kaya nagpapasalamat po ako kay Senator Risa, Her Honor,
Salamat.
for pushing for this bill. And nakita ko na the bill is aiming to plug a lot of the gaps from the old law and also modernize our capability and also our enforcement approaches to OSAIC. So with that in mind, gusto ko lang ho to go into some basic numbers. I would like to know from Her Honor, in the last maybe 1 or 2 years, ilan po ang bilang on the average per year ang nakukuha nating mga cases on OSAIC?
In the last year, average number per year since last year. On average, Mr. President, 600 plus cases of alleged commission of OSAIC and CSAM crimes based on the past year. And that's just the reported number of cases,
Yes.
Mr. President. So baka unaccounted or malamang unaccounted for pa yung underreporting at yung unreported cases, Mr. President.
And itong mga cases na nare-report, paano po sila nahuhuli? No? Ano po yung mga mekanismo o paano po yung mga paraan na nahuhuli? Kasi from what I understand, yung mga biktima nandito pero yung mga parokyano, yung mga bumibili nitong mga malaswang materyales, nasa labas ng Pilipinas, nasa ibang bansa. So ano po yung, paano ho nila nahuhuli itong ganitong mga karumal-dumal na krimen?
So, paano nahuhuli? Okay. Before I go into further detail on that question, Mr. President, because generally, ang katulong po ng ating domestic law enforcement agencies ay mga foreign law enforcement agencies kung kanino meron po tayong koordinasyon. May I just correct the number that I gave the good gentleman earlier, and which number would reveal kung ganong mas malaki pa yung problema ng underreporting. May I correct the answer I gave earlier? For the years in which cases were filed in prosecution offices and cases were filed in courts, just for the cases filed in courts, from the years 2019 to 2025, so over a period of 7 years, the total is 633 cases, Mr. President. Varying from the lowest of 41 in 2021 to the highest of 149 in 2024, for a total of 633 in that 7-year period, Mr. President. So 633 cases filed in courts based on 345 cases filed in prosecution offices, Mr.
Yes.
President.
And these are cases filed. Iba pa yung marami pa siguro dito hindi nare-report o marami ho dito ay dahil nga karamihan ng mga biktima, kamag-anak nila yung gumagawa to sa kanila, marami rin, I would assume, no, marami rin nahihiyang mag-report. No? So,
Ye-
yeah.
Yes, Mr. President. That's probably a major factor dun sa suspected underreporting of these crimes against children. Kung ang mga perpetrators ay mismong mga kapamilya nila. And in relation also to the other question raised by the good gentleman from Valenzuela, yung isang reflection po ng coordination between our domestic with foreign law enforcement agencies ay yung mga convicted foreign nationals from that same period of 2019 to the present, or 2025 last, or present now, 2026? Okay, sorry, Mr. President. From 2019 to early 2026, there are a total of 19 convicted foreign nationals. The biggest number coming from the United States, 6 persons, and then the lowest number being 1 each from Belgium, Italy, Japan, Norway, and Portugal, Mr. President.
Meron akong, I just want to share with the body. Can you flash, Elena, yung figure 1? And this breaks my heart. I think this will break the hearts of our colleagues na nakita, meron na report kami nakita by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children na ito ba is Philippines Philippines 1.7 million 1.7 million. Yeah, ito ho nakita. I was just conferring with my staff dahil nakakalula po yung number. According to the NCMEC, in 2024, there are about 1.7 million reported cases of child sexual abuse material and child exploitation. And tayo po ay 8% of the total reported cases globally. No? So ibig sabihin, almost 1/10 of the global reported cases nang gagaling po sa Pilipinas. Kaya ho talagang napaka-importante nitong batas na ito dahil nga because of that 1/10 or almost 10% of the reported cases came from the Philippines, it's a clear evidence that we're not doing enough in order to curb this criminal activity in our country.
And imagine, Mr. President, that 1.7 million plus number of referrals received in 2024 based on, I believe, Mr. President, our common data from the NCMEC or NECMEC cyber tip line reports already comes from a high of 2.7 million the previous year of 2023, 2.5 million plus the previous year, 2022, and then following that 1.7 plus million in 2024, there were 861,000 plus referrals received in 2025. So up and down, pero kahit at the lowest, so-called lowest, hundreds of thousands pa rin po,
Correct.
Mr. President. So,
Well,
nakakalula talaga.
Nakakalula ho
po.
talaga
Opo.
and nakakadurog po ng puso dahil mga bata to eh.
Yes.
No, these are young children. Nakikita ko nga sa TV, yung iba wala pang 10 years old at na-exploit sila.
Yes, Mr. President. In fact, yung youngest age ng OSAIC victim, batay po sa Manila Bulletin, was a 3-month-old baby.
Wow, grabe.
Grabe po talaga. Who fell victim to online sexual exploitation as reiterated by Assistant Secretary Clavano in 2024. Even when we look at the average age of victims for OSAIC, average age of minor victims is 12 years old. So preteen, hindi pa tumutuntong sa teenage years po nila. Ganon din ang average age of victims for self-generated CISA and Mr. President. Another dimension of the problem. At ito po yung ayon sa International Justice Mission na over half of the children abused in identified cases were 12 years old or younger. And the youngest being, yun na nga po, just a few months old. If we look also at another ugly face of these OSAIC and CSAIM, yung sextortion and image-based sexual abuse, ang average age of victims doon ay 12 to 17 years old based on the ECPAT, Interpol, and UNICEF Disrupting Harm in the Philippines study noong 2022. So ito po, international study din. So again, ang mga biktima, survivors po nito, panay mga minor de edad pa rin on average, Mr. President.
Mr. President, Her Honor, I want to ask Her Honor. That's why I was asking about the number of cases reported. On the average, I heard earlier that the cases that were filed, no, is around 41 cases. Pero makikita natin yung mga reported cases by NCMEC is about 1.7 million. How come there's a discrepancy between the reports being gathered by NCMEC versus the number of cases being filed?
Bakit severe under file? Okay. Okay. Pero alam ba natin yung proportion, yung in absolute numbers? You don't. Mr. President, partly it's accounted for by the fact na bawat tip dun sa NCMEC or NECMEC as they pronounce it, NECMEC cyber tip line reports, one tip or one referral is just one image. Pero pwedeng sa isang kaso, there may be one child na victim survivor doon, but more than one image.
Nauulit.
Opo, na nauulit or per violation or per crime, several or many images of that one child. But still, even if in 2024 we were talking not necessarily about 1.7 plus million children, still we were talking about 1.7 plus million criminal images
Correct.
of children,
Yes.
Mr. President. So, nakakalula pa rin. Even if we look at that from that point of view, Mr. President.
Alright. So itong nare-report can be a one victim will have several images being reported. That's why
Opo, Mr.
marami.
President.
Nevertheless, that 8.13% or almost a tenth of the global reports come from the Philippines. Talagang nakakapanlumo po yung ganitong sitwasyon. Now, I would like to I heard earlier from the good sponsor, Her Honor, that meron pong mga nako-convict na mga foreigners, no? I
Yes,
think
Mr.
United
President.
States was
Six,
mentioned
Mr. President.
earlier.
Opo.
What are itong mga bumibili po ng ganitong illegal materials? Saan po nanggagaling? Ano pong mga bansa, ano pong mga lugar ang pinanggagalingan? At gaano po kalaki ang perang umiikot ho dito sa mga ganitong pagbibili ng materyales?
From 2019, Mr. President, up to the present, there have been 19 convicted foreign nationals so far. From Australia, 3. From Belgium, 1. From Germany, 2. From Italy, 1. From Japan, 1. From Norway, 1. From Portugal, 1. From Sweden, 3. And from the United States, 6. So, ibig sabihin po, Mr. President, of this 19, 6 from North America, 2 from Asia Pacific, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from Europe, and, 1, 2, tama po, Mr. President. So, from various regions. And the monies involved,
Can you flash it? Mamaya.
walang specific amounts that I could break down per country, Mr. President, spent on these violative materials, violative of children, but the total money that exchanges hands worldwide for OSAIC and CSAIC materials is estimated to be in the billions of dollars, Mr. President.
And how do they access these materials, Mr. President? What is the ito ba ay na-access lang ho sa internet? Is it easily available? Paano ho nilang ina-access ho itong mga materials na ito? I'm sure it's via the internet, but how do they, is it blatantly on open face that everyone can see it? O meron ho silang mga, kagaya naririnig ko yung dark web, no? They go underground and that's how they access it. Paano ho na-access yung mga ganitong mga materials?
The access, Mr. President, is generally through two avenues. One is social media in general, and then also through messaging apps, Mr. President. Oh, Mr. President, I should mention a third avenue. Believe it or not, and how terrible kasi it's so insidious a way to approach and victimize children. Pati po games ay ginagamit para mag-access nitong mga
You mean
sisaing at
games,
usaing material.
video games?
Video game. Games like Roblox, Mr. President. Opo.
But Roblox, diba, that's available to, I think it's a very popular gaming app for a lot of children.
Actually, Mr. President, that's why it's very problematic at talagang nakakabahala. Gaya ng sinabi ng good gentleman from Valenzuela, napaka-popular sa mga bata.
Very popular siya.
Yes. Pero nag-figure na siya sa mga monitoring and documentation ng mga lines of access to children for the purposes of committing these crimes of OSAIC and sisaim, Mr. President.
We also did some research on the amounts being remitted or amounts connected to OSAIC. We requested AMLAC to provide some information, and nakita namin na nagulat ako dito dahil ang laki ng pera. For 2020 to 2022, can we flash? Tama ho kayo na galing ho sa United States, 400 million pesos.
Wow.
Ang pumapasok po, remittance connected to OSAIC. United Kingdom is about 50 million pesos. Australia, 47 million pesos. Canada, 36 million pesos. Saudi Arabia, 33 million pesos. But the United States, almost kalahating bilyon ang pumapasok. So it's consistent to the figure that you gave that it runs into billions. Ito lang po yung mga nata-track down, but I'm sure marami pa dito, kagaya ng sinabi niyo, yung mga hindi nare-report or hindi pa natitrace ng AMLAC. Napakalaking pera po ang umiikot, no? Dito po sa krimen na ito.
And speaking, Mr. President, about AMLAC, grabe rin po. Sabi po ng Council, over half of suspicious money flows na flag nila ay galing sa OSAIC. Ganong kalaki po, Mr. President.
In terms of sa lugar po here in the Philippines, what areas are prone to this type of criminal activities, Madam Sponsor? Ano
There are top 3 regions, Mr. President, with the highest number of survivors assisted. So we could probably infer from that na ito rin yung mga rehiyon as of May 2025, datos po ng DSWD, na may highest detected incidents of the crimes. Dahil napag-usapan na po natin kanina ng good gentleman na there is probably severe underreporting. So these top 3 regions with highest number of survivors assisted are Region 7, almost 250 children as of May 2025. Then Region 10, about 100 children. And Region 3, about 75 children, Mr. President. So for the year 2025, yun po yung pinaka-apektadong mga rehiyon natin.
And
President.
meron ho kayong datos on, earlier we flashed how much those countries are remitting amounts related to OSAIC. Meron ba ho tayong datos on how much man these areas are receiving in terms of amounts?
Well, unfortunately, Mr. President, wala pa po tayong disaggregated. I don't know if it would be possible to proceed dun mula sa data ng AMLAC na grabe, kalahati ng mga suspicious money flows na fina-flag nila ay OSAIC, if they would, at least for that year cited and moving forward, be able to disaggregate per region. And also, Mr. President, speaking of yung mga foreign offenders, no, meron din po tayong datos ng number of respondents by nationality and gender 2019 to the present. So ito po yung by nationality and gender, ang female respondents for those 7 years, 257. Mas marami pa kaysa sa male. Kasi ang bilang ng male respondents for those years ay 176 for a total of 433, Mr. President.
I would like to go into that. Nakita ko rin humingi rin kami sa committee ng datos at flash na convicted. Nakita ko na mas marami po ang female convicted respondents compared to male. Over the years, mas marami pong babae. And bakit po ganun ang nakikita po ng ating
Unfortunately, Mr. President, and isa pa
good sponsor, how come puro babae po ang nako-convict dito sa krimen na ito?
ito, isang nakakadurog din ng puso talaga para sa akin na kabaro nila, kapwa nanay din. Apparently, at least in these cases na umabot sa conviction, yung mga convicted respondents na female ay karamihan mga nanay mismo ng mga victim survivors. So, grabe talaga, Mr. President, yung pinag-uusapan nating mga sitwasyon ito.
Talagang ako, kinikilabutan nga ako pag pinag-uusapan ho natin to dahil itong mga bata na ito na nagbibigay tiwala sa kanilang, of course, sa kanilang mga magulang nila yon, or mga kamag-anak nila, pero yung pang mga kamag-anak ho nila ang gumagawa nito sa sarili nilang mga kamag-anak. That's why nung tinitignan ho namin in datos, karamihan po dito ay babae dahil I would assume yung mga bata mas binibigay nila yung tiwala nila sa kanilang nanay, sa kanilang tita, sa kanilang auntie, sa kanilang mga kamag-anak na kababaihan at ito naman ang ginagawa ho sa kanila. No? Kaya nakakadurog ho talaga ng puso.
Isang tiwala, Mr. President, na talagang hindi namin dapat babasagin, Mr. President.
Yes. And going back to yung kanina mga province, Mr. President, good sponsor, meron ho, humingi rin ho kami sa AMLAC ng mga list of provinces. And consistent ho dun sa mga sinabi niyong mga provinces sa Region 7, Region 3. Cebu remains Cebu is the top recipient of OSAIC-related remittances. Next will at 65 billion. Ayan po, finlash lang ho namin. And then Pampanga at 62 million. Cavite, 34 million, Bulacan, 30 million, Leyte, 22 million. So, consistent po ito doon sa nabanggit niyong mga regions ho kanina. So, ang next question ko ho, good sponsors, ano po ang, sa ilalim po ng batas, meron bang responsibilidad itong mga LGUs? O meron ba ho silang mga under their proposed measure, meron ba hong pwedeng gawin ang mga LGUs para mapigilan ho nila itong mga OSAIC sa kanilang mga lugar? Kasi naniniwala ako, the LGUs, frontliners ho natin sila, kaya nila immobilize yung kanilang mga mayors, kapitan, to go all the way to the far-flung areas, to the mga areas na hindi ho pinupuntahan. So if we can mobilize the local government units, I'm very confident that we can curb the proliferation of OSAIC in especially in the countryside. And at the same time, information campaign. I think the LGUs can also do a very efficient information campaign to warn potential criminals to go into this type of criminal activities. Meron ba ho tayong ganun sa ilalim po ng ating proposal?
Opo, Mr. President, may at least kalahating dosenang konkretong bagay na pwede at dapat gawin ng mga LGU sa kaharap ng mga isyung ito. The bill states that LGUs shall ensure compliance with this within their jurisdictions by promoting awareness against OSAIC and CSAM through clear and visible signages in both English and the local dialect with local and national hotlines posted within their facilities. Pangalawa, at ito very particular din sa kapangyarihan ng LGUs, conditioning the issuance and renewal of business permits for internet hotspots, cafes, and kiosks on proof of compliance with Section 9F, paragraphs 1 to 3 of this Act. Pangatlo, very LGU pa rin, conducting regular and spot inspections in coordination with local PNP units to verify the presence and proper configuration of blocking or filtering software and the posting of required signages and the hotlines. Pang-apat, designating a child protection focal office or officer to receive reports, assist establishments in complying with standards, and escalate violations to the NCC o SAEC, CSAM Secretariat, and law enforcement. So, yung local to national coordination andito na rin sa LGUs. Panlima, providing or facilitating orientation and materials for operators and staff based on templates from the NCC o SAEC, CSAM Secretariat. At huli, submitting quarterly compliance reports to the NCC o SAEC, CSAM Secretariat. LGUs may impose administrative sanctions including warning, fine, suspension, or revocation of permits after due process without prejudice to criminal or civil liabilities under this Act. At yung ganito po, Mr. President, ay nasa Section 9 ng Bill, Duties and Responsibilities of Covered Entities. And if I may add, I'm sorry, Mr. President, regarding dun sa isa ring pinag-uusapan namin ng good gentleman tungkol po dun sa amounts at kaugnay pa rin ng AMLAC, reported po ng AMLAC from 2020 hanggang 2022, 182,729 OSAIC-related suspicious transaction reports with an aggregate amount of 1.56 billion pesos.
Wow,
So,
grabe,
ganun talagang magnitude na
Laki.
po, Mr. President. Malaki na po
So
talaga.
billion ho talaga ang pinag-uusapan ho natin.
Yes po.
Yeah, and these are just the reported cases. Wala pa yung
Exactly.
unreported. And I
Opo.
think siguro mahina po yung doble the amount if we
Very
will account for
possibly,
the
Mr. President.
unreported cases.
Opo.
And then talking about victims, meron ba hong under the bill, is there a mechanism to help the victims in terms of providing support, providing services? I'm sure the psychological damage to the victims exposed to this type of criminal activities will be tremendous. And aside from yung binibigay ng DSWD na normal support nila, meron ba hong under the bill, is there an additional support that will be given to the victims?
Yes, Mr. President. Ang bill na to, bukod sa pag-expand ng definitions to cover emerging technologies, pag-heighten ng duties ng private sector, at pag-strengthen ng capacity of law enforcement, na lahat nito sumasaklaw sa prevention, awareness raising, at saka pagpapalakas sa law enforcement. Meron din po sa bill na provision of mandatory services, including counseling, free legal services, medical or psychological services, livelihood and skills training, and educational assistance to the child or children and their families. Importante po, Mr. President, yung livelihood and skills training and educational assistance also sa mga pamilya para nga po moving forward kasabay ng paghilom sa mga sugat sa mga bata, kasabay ng paghabol ng hustisya para sa kanila laban sa mga suspected offenders, yung pag-reduce din ng economic vulnerability ng mga pamilya sa ganitong mga predatory actors na bumibili ng CSAEC at CSAM. And of course also, isa po sa pang-rehabilitate sa bata sa konteksto ng kanyang pamilya ay reparations for victim survivors, Mr. President?
Karamihan ho kasi ng mga, ito nakikita ko naman sa balita, karamihan ng mga perpetrators, ang kanilang dahilan ay poverty, no? Or kawalan ng kita, or wala silang pinagkikitaan. Of course, hindi unacceptable to. No? Walang dahilan o wala akong nakikitang any reasonable or any reason na acceptable na pwedeng i-justify yung mga ganitong hindi magaganda o hindi mga ganitong criminal acts. But nakita ko na to move forward, and also part of the healing process is to enable the family to uplift their economic status through that livelihood. At kasama ho yan dito sa proposal.
Opo, Mr. President.
On the topic ho ng enforcement, Madam Sponsor, of course, meron tayong batas. Yung batas natin ay, sa alam ko, isa sa pinaka mahigpit na batas, pero kulang pa rin yung ating enforcement. So ano yung mga, what are the proposals in the measure that will improve enforcement? Aside from, of course, funding. Funding is important, but in terms of structure, in terms of coordination, in terms of efficiency, what are the provisions in the bill that will improve enforcement? Because at the end of the day, enforcement is the most important facet, no? Because you can only reduce or prevent OSAIC from happening in our country if we have effective enforcement and we win the cases being filed against these perpetrators. So ano po yung mga nasa ilalim po ng proposal na mag-improve po ng enforcement?
Mr. President, ang panukala ay nagbibigay ng mataas na pansin talaga dun sa coordination with foreign law enforcement and local enforcement. Meron pong information sharing among local agencies and local and foreign law enforcement. The bill allows more robust and responsive information exchange with foreign law enforcement and allows less restricted information exchange among domestic agencies. So, ine-enable po yung mga domestic law enforcement agencies na mas mag-coordinate sa isa't isa. And dahil nga multifaceted na ang mga aspeto ng krimeng ito laban sa mga bata, and then also encourages yung domestic coordination with foreign law enforcement.
I also saw in the bill that it will create the National Coordinating Council on OSAIC and CISAM.
CISAM, opo.
And this is para po mas streamlined and well-coordinated po yung mga activities ng enforcement agencies po natin.
Opo, Mr. President, at palalakasin yung NCC, OSAIC, CISAM Secretariat to enable sustained operational coordination, policy support, and data-informed implementation. Kaya po't isa sa mga susing probisyon ay pagpapalakas nitong Secretariat para rin yung opisina ng NCC, CISAIC, o SAEM ay magkaroon ng regional presence, Mr. President.
And then, yes, nakita ko rin ho yan na the bill aims to establish regional offices and para may presence po ang National Coordinating Council in our different regions at makababa talaga po sila, no? At ma-engage nila yung local government units. And nakita ko rin in the bill that it will institutionalize the Philippine Internet Crimes Against Children Center in
PICAC, Mr.
PICAC.
President. Opo.
Yes. And what's the delineation of responsibilities between the Coordinating Council and the PICAC? Ano po yung kanilang delineation ng kanilang roles?
Okay. While the... Okay. And then yung NCC Secretary. Okay. Mr. President, ang Division of Labor po nila ay yung NCC o SAEC, CSAM Secretariat ay may overall na pag-coordinate sa ating OSAIC and CSAM efforts dito sa ating bansa. Samantalang ang Philippine Internet Crimes Against Children Center o yung PICAC ay may particular na focus dun sa foreign. Oo, dun sa foreign nexus po nitong mga krimeng nararanasan natin sa loob ng ating bansa. Ito pong PICAC has proven to be an effective vehicle for international law enforcement cooperation and multi-agency operations. Sa ngayon kasi, Mr. President, ang PICAC ay instituted by a mere MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. Samantalang kung ma-establish natin ang PICAC through legislation sa pamamagitan nitong panukala, mas masisiguro po natin yung operability niya at saka yung viability, Mr. President.
So PICAC will be responsible for coordinating with external agencies.
That is right, Mr. President. Under the supervision of the NCC o SAEC CSAM Secretariat.
All right.
Mr.
So
President.
it will be under the coordinating council. That's the structure that we are looking at. Under who's the party?
Okay. May I correct that, Mr. President? Hindi po nasa ilalim ng NCC,
Okay.
SAEC o SAM Secretariat ang PICAC. PICAC is focusing on law enforcement, including coordination with international law enforcement, while NCC, SAEC, o SAEC, SAM Secretariat takes care of the overall national effort, Mr. President.
PICAC is will be under which agency? Good sponsor.
Actually, Mr. President, kung paano siya kino-contemplate ngayon ng bill, hindi siya magiging sa ilalim ng anumang department, for example, hindi siya attached agency. What do you call it? Okay. Well, sa ngayon po, ang direction sa PICAC ay nagmumula sa Philippine National Police at saka National Bureau of Investigation, Mr. President.
Okay. And because dito ay nakikita ko it's a interagency law enforcement body. So ibig sabihin it will be mobilizing, enforcing. So that's why the members of this interagency law enforcement body will be composed of PNP and NBI. No?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yep. Okay. And lastly, Mr. President, on the I saw also in the bill that it aimed to future-proof the transgressions of OSAIC by including AI-generated, deepfake, digitally altered media or depictions of a child. At ako sumusuporta ako dito dahil ang AI ho ngayon, grabe na talaga. Hindi mo na malaman kung totoo o hindi totoo pagdating sa AI. Kahit minsan ako ho, akala ko totoo. But wala ho kasing accountability pagdating sa artificial intelligence images. Pwede kang gumawa ng mga images na bata imuka and you will get away with it. Hindi ka mahuhuli. And so that's why I commend the good sponsor for future-proofing. I think this will also become a huge problem, not only in the Philippines, but the whole world, globally. Itong paggamit po ng AI and the depiction of children or the depiction of minors in this type of images. So I commend the good sponsor for that. And in the
Salamat,
bill...
Mr. President.
Yeah.
If I just
Yeah,
may
go ahead.
add to the conversation at this point, talaga pong sa bilis at sa lawak at sa hirap kontrolin ng AI-generated CSAM is really a major concern of this bill. AI-generated CSAM involves using artificial intelligence to create these exploitative images. At gaya po ng sinabi ng good gentleman mula sa Valenzuela, these images could be an entirely fake image based on a real person, or it could use an existing non-CSAM image or video but edited and converted into a CSAM. Kaya po CSAM will now include materials that are computer generated and digitally or manually crafted, altered, or synthesized. And ito, Mr. President, medyo mind-boggling. No? This applies whether or not the abusive material is based on the image, likeness, or data of an actual child.
Nakakatakot ho talaga.
Nakakatakot po.
Nakakatakot.
Opo. Ibig sabihin, kahit hindi based sa image, likeness, or data of an actual child, yung abusive material will still become and will still be commercialized as exploitative of children, Mr. President, gamit ang AI.
Correct, Mr. President. And how will the bill address this or enforce it? Because sa ngayon, in my experience with seeing artificial intelligence picture, minsan lalabas sa social media pero hindi natin alam kung sino gumawa. There's no accountability. They can generate fake news using artificial intelligence. But how will the bill now enforce the mechanisms in the provisions to arrest perpetrators of artificial intelligence using children as materials? Paano nila i-enforce ho yan? This is in cyberspace, and admittedly, pagdating sa cyberspace, wild, wild west. But how is the bill contemplating to arrest those who perpetuate this type of AI-generated materials that uses children as depiction?
Dahil nga po, Mr. President, gaya ng sinabi ng good gentleman mula sa Valenzuela, talagang wild, wild west at lalong nagiging wild, wild west ang internet. So the bill tries to identify the actors, the cowboys, and somehow make them more accountable. Halimbawa, nagdadagdag siya ng mga obligasyon sa mga internet actors at sa mga messaging apps to provide information when required, for example, by the PICAC in its investigative and law enforcement work, including in identifying and making accountable yung mga foreign perpetrators outside the country. Yes. And importante rin po, Mr. President, na itong mga social media and messaging apps stakeholders magtalaga ng representative in country. So magkaroon ng juridical personality sila dito sa Republika natin para hindi, for example, kung kailangang makausap, makatrabaho ang Meta na nandun lang sila sa Singapore. Hindi, kailangan ang bawat isang mga stakeholders na to may opisina na dito sa Pilipinas para mas madaling maka-contact sa kanila ang NCC o CSAM Secretariat or ang PICAC for that matter at yung iba pang Philippine stakeholders.
And these social media operators, in fact, in the bill, nakita ko rin pati mga ISPs, internet intermediaries, technology platforms, payment system, all of these will be mandated to cooperate. So in other words, if there are materials, AI-generated for that matter, and it cannot be tracked on who manufactured it or who created it, it will be the platforms as well as the internet intermediaries, ISP, who should be responsible in taking it down.
Definitely, Mr. President.
Tama po ba?
Tama po, Mr. President. Kasi kung ginagawang scenes of the crime ang platforms nila, hindi pwedeng wala silang sagutin doon. So the bill seeks to strengthen the responsibility and accountability of internet and financial intermediaries for prevention, disruption of OSAIC-CSAM, evidence preservation, lalo na pag ni-request halimbawa ng PICAC, and timely reporting. And additionally, Mr. President, this includes the mandatory adoption of safety by design principles, including robust age verification and proactive blocking of CSAM to ensure proactive steps in combating OSAIC and CSAM. Kumbaga, hindi na kailangang hintayin dapat ng isang social media platform or messaging app na i-call ang attention nila ng PICAC, for example. Dapat meron silang, through yung pag-observe ng safety by design principles, meron silang internal na kakayahan i-red flag ang sarili nilang platform kapag lumilitaw dito yung mga CSAIC at OSAIC and CSAM materials, Mr. President.
Will the platforms and technology providers be liable? For example, nasa platform nila or yung ISP provider is providing access to a content that is AI generated and in violation of OSAIC. Will they be liable?
They will certainly be liable, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you. So with that, Mr. President, I would like to once again thank the good sponsor, Senator Risa Hontiveros, Her Honor, for this very important measure. It's really nakakapanlumo pag-usapan ho to at napakabigat po sa ating mga puso pero dapat ho natin gawin yung dapat natin gawin, which is to improve the law, improve enforcement, and make those involved in this type of criminal activity pay the price and be penalized. Kailangan ho sila maging liable at makulong, no, doon sa mga gumagawa ho nito. At kaya sang-ayon po ako na higpitan po ho yung ating mga batas para ho wala nang magtangkang pumasok pa dito sa mga ganitong criminal activities. So maraming salamat. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat din, Mr. President. I think in taking this further step against CSAIC and OSAM, mas mahigpit na pagpoprotekta sa ating mga bata, we are also more greatly protecting our whole society, our whole country, lalo na dahil dun sa mga indications mula sa datos ng AMLAC at yung iba pang kumikilos laban sa mga issue ito na mukhang common perpetrators ng iba't ibang forms ng OSAIC-CSAM ay kasama po dito pati transnational criminal organization. So yung mga na-encounter natin on other fronts of different kinds of crimes, maya't maya ini-evolve lang nila yung business model nila at yung revenue streams nila, pero ganun din ang parang modus operandi, pag-aabuso sa teknolohiya para biktimahin yung pinaka-vulnerableng mga sektor. So maraming salamat din po, good gentleman from Valenzuela at Mr. President.
Thank you. To continue the interpellation, Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to manifest my support, Mr. President, distinguished lady from Panay Islands, the revision of Republic Act number 11930, or the expanded Anti-Online Sexual Abuse or Exploitation of Children, or ASIC, and Anti-Child Sexual Abuse or Exploitation Materials, or CSIM. I'd just like to seek a few clarifications of the bill, kung papayag po ang ating good sponsor na magtanong po ang representation na ito.
Opo, Mr. President.
As of 2025, po ba, ilan na po ang mga websites, social media posts at groups ang na-take down ng Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center? Meron po ba na tayong bilang at ilan na po ang napanagot so far?
At the moment, Mr. President, unfortunately, wala po tayong ganong datos. Isang malaking gap na gusto pong punan ng panukalang batas na ito precisely by increasing po yung mga accountabilities nitong mga social media platforms at saka messaging apps at financial intermediaries. para proactively and effectively, proactively responsive dito sa mga krimeng ito, Mr. President.
Hindi po ba sapat, Madam Sponsor, yung ating mga batas? Meron na po tayong mga batas. Ito po ba yung mga anti-child abuse, yung ating mga batas na gano'n? Hindi po ba ito sapat para tugunan ang problema na ito? Bagamat, and I have known that different various authorities from overseas tumutulong na po sa ating mga otoridad, sa ating PNP, NBI, mga otoridad po ang FBI, tumutulong na rin po ang Australia Intelligence, tumutulong din po dahil aminado na po sila, pati po sa Great Britain, yung kanilang mga otoridad, nakikipagtulungan dahil nga po tayo po ang pinakamalaking supplier ng online sexual exploitation of children. Tama po kayo.
Actually, Mr. President, and wala pa ring pride na pwede nating kunin sa pag-put on the record nito, tayo daw ang pangalawa sa pinakamalalaking suppliers ng OSAIC at CSAIM materials. But gaya ng sinabi ko po, we can take no pride in that na pangalawa tayo kasi pangalawa pa rin sa higit 200 ba na bansa sa buong mundo.
Sino yung
at siguro
panguna?
po, India, Mr. President. Opo, at pumapangalawa po tayo. So, at palagay ko po, Mr. President, good gentleman mula sa Palawan, kaya po kumikilos na rin po talaga yung mga foreign law enforcement agencies dahil sila rin po namamalayan nila na may mga emerging trends talaga sa OSAIC and CSAIM na dito naman po sa atin, nakita tuloy natin hindi nasasapat at kailangan tuloy-tuloy na i-update yung ating mga batas. Mga trends po tulad ng first person produced CSAIM, yung image-based sexual abuse, sexual extortion of children, Mr. President, at yung AI-generated CSAIM. Kaya ito pong mga emerging trends ay nagtukoy tuloy ng mga major concerns at gaps sa ating kasalukuyang mga batas at implementation nila. Kaya yun po yung pangunahing gustong isulong nitong panukala. Kasama na po yung pagpapalakas ng responsibilidad at accountability ng internet and financial intermediaries sa pamamagitan halimbawa ng safety by design principles. Yung pagpapalakas din po, Mr. President, ng papel ng mga learning institutions sa prevention, early detection, at providing safe and accessible platforms for reporting. Yun din pong modernizing and future-proofing the law by adopting technology-neutral provisions. At gaya ng napag-usapan kanina, yung pag-institutionalize ng Philippine Internet Crimes Against Children Center o yung PICAC, at pagpapalakas naman ng NCC o SAIC-CSAIM Secretariat. Siyempre po, isang major gap na gustong tugunan ng panukala ay yung pag-enhance ng information and coordination among local law enforcement agencies and prosecutors at yung pagpapalawak ng paggamit ng regulatory and administrative measures to improve compliance and implementation. So, hindi man natin inasahan ay napakabilis po talaga ng pag-evolve ng mga paraan ng paggawa nito mga krimen. So, ergo, Mr. President, good gentleman, yung panukalang ito.
Okay. Isa pa akong katanungan, Madam Sponsor. Tila may binago po tayo sa definisyon ng grooming sa ilalim ng sa ilalim ng page 7, line 3 hanggang 31, section 3. Ang tanong ko lamang po, bakit po kailangan na baguhin natin ang definisyon ng grooming?
Tama po ang good gentleman mula sa Palawan, Mr. President. Pinalawak nga po ng panukalang ito yung definisyon ng grooming. At yan po ay dahil ang isang malaking dahilan po, Mr. President, ay dahil isinama na po ng panukalang batas bilang isang forma ng mga krimen ng OSAIC at CSAIM. yung sexualized conversations kasama ng mga bata o yung sexualization ng mga bata upang bilang ihanda sila or i-condition sila na maging mas vulnerable pa na mabiktima sa ganitong klaseng mga krimen, Mr. President.
Tama po ba, Madam Sponsor, Mr. President, na itong ang intensyon po ng pagbabago nitong definisyon ng grooming ay ibig sabihin po ay any deliberate act to build trust, gain access, exert influence over a child is considered grooming?
It could be so, Mr. President, lalo na kapag napatunayan na itong mga naunang gawain, targeting the child, ay para dumako po dun sa krimen ng OSAEC at saka pag-produce ng sisaing materials, Mr. President. Kung kaya't dito sa panukalang ito, ang grooming mismo, grooming per se, punishable act na po siya, Mr. President. And in fact, hindi na mangangailangan ng subsequent act of abuse, Mr. President.
Ang kinakatakot ko lamang, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor, ay itong over-inclusive definition na maaring maparusahan po ang mga teacher o ang mga tutor o mga nurses, mga doktor na may access po ika nga sa pangangailangan or caregiver na may access pangangailangan ng bata.
Siyempre po, Mr. President, yung intent ang isa sa pinakamalaking factor ng pag-establish ng krimen, ng grooming sa konteksto nitong panukala o yung aktual na subsequent acts of abuse. Having said that, at the proper time, bukas po ang representasyong ito sa mga proposed amendments para linawin po ang sakop talaga nitong definisyong ito, Mr. President.
Nako, salamat po, Madam Sponsor. Meron na lang po akong huling dalawang katanungan. Ano po ba ang example na nakita ko rin po dito ng sinasabing person representative or represented, advertised or made available as a child but is in fact an adult? Ito po ba ay pagbabasihan ay ang kaanyuhan ng tao o behavior, Madam Sponsor? Kung ito po ay ibabase po sa behavior, kailangan po ba na isolated incident o dapat ba may pattern of behavior na nag-aastang bata?
For entrapment purposes. Okay. Yung sitwasyon na naisip ko po, Mr. President, kaugnay ng tanong ng good gentleman mula sa Palawan, ay yung mga sitwasyon na may mga law enforcers na nagpapanggap na mga bata online for purposes of entrapment ng mga suspected perpetrators ng OSAEC at saka production of sisaing materials, Mr. President.
Yeah, I have experienced that, Madam Sponsor. When I was still a journalist, meron pong ganon na kasama po ako sa surveillance ng mga pulis natin, ng NBI, para lamang madakip. I understand po what you mean. Panghuling katanungan na lamang po, sa page 61 po, line 14 to 21, section 10, sinasabi po dito, on the failure to designate a legal representative by the foreign internet intermediaries and technology platform, how much is the administrative fine being referred to in this section? Magkano po ang sinasabing fine? At sino pong ahensya ang responsable na mag-i-impose po ng naturang fine?
Sino mag-impose? Korte na ba? Wala pang specific. Wala pang specific. Okay. Hindi yung korte. Okay. Sa ngayon, Mr. President, sa panukala, wala pang specific amount na nakatukoy doon. Kung sino po magde-determine nung amount na iyon, depende po kung sino yung entity na papatawa ng ganyang penalty. Maaring korte, maaring National Telecommunications Commission, maaring okay. Or in the case of financial intermediaries, maari po ang Bangko Sentral, Mr. President.
Madam Sponsor, Mr. President, sangayon po ako at suportahan ko po itong panukalang batas na ito dahil ito po ay maganda. Finally, after several years being a journalist before, problema po talaga ng otoridad natin ng PNP, ng NBI, paano po habulin itong mga nambibiktima ng mga kabataan natin sa online. So I believe napapanahon na po talaga na magkaroon tayo ng batas na ito. Maraming salamat, Madam Sponsor. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo.
Salamat po, Mr. President.
Session suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority
Mr.
Leader.
President, I believe two other members would like to interpolate the our distinguished colleague. I move that we suspend consideration of the measure, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration is suspended.
Mr. President, we just have one more item in the agenda for consideration. This is a resolution of Senator Robin Hood Padilla. But before we do that, may I move for additional reference of business?
Secretary will proceed with the additional reference of business.
Additional reference of business. Bills on first reading. Senate Bill number 1877, an act strengthening and protecting land tenure security, public school sites, and mandating the titling of properties used by the Department of Education for the purposes by Senator Aquino.
Yes, referred to the Committee on Justice and Basic Education, Ways and Means and Finance.
1878, an act amending the Public Act number 10066, otherwise known as the National Cultural Heritage of 2009, repealing President's Decree number 1726-8, providing guidelines on treasure hunting by Senator Aquino.
To the Committee on Culture and the Arts.
1879, an act declaring December 12th of every year as a special working holiday in our entire country to commemorate the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe by Senator Soto.
Referred to Committee on Culture and the Arts.
Resolutions. Resolution number 308. Resolution directing the Committee on Basic Education to conduct an inquiry in the legislation. The Department of Education's proposed shift from quarterly to a trimestral curriculum structure by Senator Aquino.
To the Committee on Basic Education.
309. Resolution directing the Committee on Basic Education to conduct an inquiry in the legislation, the state of literacy in the country, with any view of identifying urgent policy and program interventions to address learning poverty, improve foundational learning and outcomes among Filipino learners by Senator Aquino.
To the Committee on Basic Education.
310, resolution expressing strong positive support Philippines ASEAN chairship in 2026 Sustainable Development Goals, Climate, Health and Peace, Techno-Resilient Action Year by Senator Padilla.
To the Committee on Rules.
311, resolution honoring the life, legacy, and contributions of the actress, entertainer, and patriot May Erlinda Hiron Panlilio, fondly called the Bob Pope of the Philippines, expressing profound sympathy and sincere condolences of the Senate of the Philippines on her passing by Senator Padilla.
To the Committee on Rules.
312, resolution commending outstanding young men, awardees of 2025 for enduring contribution to nation building by Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committee on Rules.
313, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in the utilization prevalence of chronic kidney disease in the Philippines with end in view of exploring legislative measures to strengthen existing prevention and control programs by Senator Villar M.
To the Committee on Health. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just some admin matters. Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 10, Section 13 of the Rules of the Senate, in view of the suspension of the application of Rule 10, Section 20 thereof, which designates the Deputy Minority Leader as member of all permanent committees, I move to elect Senator Chis Escudero, Vice Senator Joel Villanueva as member of the Committee on Civil Service, Government Reorg, and Professional Regulations. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
And we do so, Mr. President, because of the request of the chairperson of the committee that Senator Chis Escudero take up one of the priority measures. So I move that, Mr. President, we create a subcommittee in the Civil Service Committee that will take up the disqualification of relatives of officials of the fourth degree in government contracts. I so move, Mr. President, and let Chis Escudero be the chairman of the subcommittee.
Hearing no objection, this subcommittee is created.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. That's a very important measure. Now, Mr. President, we'd like to move to consider proposed Senate Resolution number 311. This is a resolution honoring the life and legacy and contributions of actress, entertainer, and patriot May Erlinda Hiron. Mr. President, I so move.
Hearing no objection, consideration of the measure is in order. You
May we
may,
ask
the
the
Secretary will read the title of the
Full
measure without prejudice into inserting into the records the text of the said resolution.
311. Resolution honoring the life, legacy, and contributions of actress, entertainer, and patriot May Erlinda Hiron Panlilio, fondly called the above hope of the Philippines, expressing the profound sympathy and sincere condolences of the Senate of the Philippines on her passing.
Mr. President, I move to recognize the sponsor of the measure, no other than Senator Robin Hood Padilla, Mr. President.
Senator Robin Padilla is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo, at sa ating pinunong mayorya. A'udhu billahi minasyaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Ginoong Pangulo, malapit po sa ating puso ang aking masasabi pong talumpati. Ako po ay tumitindig sapagkat tayo po ay kapatid po natin sa industriya, ang atin pong bibigyan ng parangal. Madalas po, ang atin pong mga kinikilala dito ay yung kanila pong kontribusyon sa sining, sa kanila pong mga ginawang pelikula, maaring sa Pinilakang Tabing o sa entablado o sa teleserye. Ang akin pong bibigyan ng parangal ay isang artista na gumanap po sa maraming pelikula. Mga pelikula po nakasama si Dolphy, Susan Roses, Ronaldo Valdez, at marami pa pong iba. At siya din po ang unang-unang nagbida sa teleserye ng ABS-CBN. Pero ito pong mga ito ay isa lamang parte ng kanyang buhay. Ang akin pong pagkilalang ibibigay sa kanya ay yung pong ipinakita niyang pagmamahal sa ating bayan. Hindi naman po lingid sa ating kaalaman na meron pong tinatawag na Bob Hope. Nung panahon ng Vietnam War, si Bob Hope po ay isang artista ng Amerikano, isang entertainer na nagdadala po ng mga artista sa Vietnam, kung saan ang mga sundalo po doon ay nasa kalagitnaan ng labanan, mainit na labanan, at marami pong namamatay na mga sundalo. Siya po yung nagbibigay ng entertainment. Meron din po tayo niyan sa Pilipinas. At iyan po ay si May Villarica, ang tinaguriang Bob Hope of the Philippines. Nung panahon po ng mainit na gera sa Mindanao, nung panahon po ng nagkakagulo sa Sulu, sa Basilan, sa Lanao, nung panahon po na nagkaroon ng napakaraming casualty, ang atin pong mga kasundaluhan ay nakakaranas ng low moral. Meron pong isang artista na nagngangalang May Villarica. Siya po ang nagrally ng mga artista sa pangalan nila Eddie Garcia, Anthony Alonso, Rod Navarro, Gemma Cruz Araneta, Margie Moran, Imelda Papin, Chiquito, Panchito. Dinala po niya ang mga artista sa mga war-torn areas sa Mindanao. Kung nasaan po ang labanan, doon po niya dinala upang magbigay ng kasiyahan at kapanatagan sa ating mga sundalo. At dahil po dito, nagkaroon po ng tinatawag na stars in the battlefield, na siya po ang utak nito. Dahil po dyan, siya po ay ginawaran ng sandatahang lakas ng mga parangal, katulad po ng Military Merit Medal, Gawad Kaunlaran, at Philippine Legion of Honor. Dahil po sa kanyang mga pinakitang pagsuporta sa ating mga sundalo na kinilala po ng mga magigiting nating general at kilalang general na sila General Espino, General Ver, General Ramos, General Abat. Ito pong binigay sa kanyang mga parangal ng military, ay isa po itong wala pa pong kahit na sinong artista sa ngayon ang nakakakuha po nito, sapagkat nung oras na yon ng labanan ay nandoon po si May Villarica. Kaya, mga mahal kong kasama, hinihingi ko po sa inyo ang suporta upang kilalanin ang artistang ito sapagkat sa kanya po nakikita ngayon. Marami pong mga artista ngayon, katulad na po ako. Katulad po nila Mateo Guadiceli, nila Dingdong Dantes, na mga reservist po ngayon. Siya po ang nag-umpisa nito, si May Villarica. Katunayan, nung nagpunta po sa Kalayaan Island, siya po ang unang-unang artista na dumating doon. Siya po ang unang-unang nagpakita ng suporta. Kaya bilang isang taong galing po sa mundo ng pelikula, alam ko po ang halaga ng pag-arte. Ngunit, mas mahalaga po ang paglingap. Mas mahalaga ang malasakit. At yun po ang iniwan sa atin ni May Villarica. Ang kanyang pamana ay hindi lamang po sa pelikula. Nasa puso po ito ng ating mga magigiting na sundalo na handang mag-alay ng kanilang buhay. Nasa alaala ng mga pamilyang kanyang nabigkas at nabigyan ng lakas. Ginoong Pangulo, sa pagpanaw po ni May Erlinda Hiron Panlilio, hindi lamang isang artista ang nawala, isang makabayan ang ating pinararangalan. Sa ngalan po ng Senado ng Republika ng Pilipinas, buong puso ko pong inihain ang pagkilala sa kanyang buhay, sa kanyang kontribusyon sa sining at sa kanyang tahimik, ngunit makapangyarihang paglilingkod sa bayan. Sa kanyang pamilya, ang aming taus-pusong pakikiramay, sa kanyang alaala, ang aming pangakong hindi makalilimot at habang buhay na paggalang. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Majority Leader.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that no other members wish to propose any interpellation or any amendments. I'd like to recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Rizon Tiveros.
Senator Risa Ontiveros is recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Isang tanong lang po para sa mabuting Ginoo. Bakit po hindi mas kilala si May Erlinda Hiron Panlilio, Mr. President?
Opo, ang tunay po niyang pangalan, yun po yung May Erlinda. Opo, ang kanya pong parang showbiz name o yung screen name ay May Villarica. Opo, yun po yung kanyang, siya po ay panahon po nung 60s, 70s, yan, nung nagkaroon po ng kainitan ng gera sa Mindanao, mas doon po siya nagbigay ng panahon niya. Kaya po tinagurian siyang Bob Hope of the Philippines. Opo.
Salamat po
mas
sa
kilala.
impormasyon,
Baka mas kilala po
Mr.
na ating
President.
Senate President.
Kung maitanong din po,
Makilala
Mr.
ni Senate
President.
President.
Si Myra Villarica ang kilala ko.
Baka po magkamag-anak sila, Mr.
Hindi,
President.
kilala ko po.
Mabuting
Narinig ko po
Ginoo.
si May Villarica.
Actually,
Tama si Senator
tinignan ko sa
Padilla.
Facebook po sa Facebook tsaka sa Google. Sikat siya nung panahon na yun. Mr.
Yeah, well,
My
taga-Caloocan,
parents would
hindi ako
know.
nagkakamali.
Mga parents ko, kilala.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Yun lamang po, na curious lang po ako dahil kung tinagurian silang Bob Hope of the Philippines, alam po natin kung gaano ka kilala si Bob Hope, hindi lang ng mga Amerikano sa USA, pero all over the world. Kaya salamat po sa mabuting Ginoo, Mr. President, sa pagdagdag sa kamalayan natin tungkol sa mga alagad ng sining na naglingkod sa ating
Katulad
bayan.
po
Salamat
ninyo,
po.
na alagad din po ng sining. Opo, na nanggaling din po sa Kalayaan. Opo, na tayong dalawa po, nanggaling po tayo mismo. Kasama po si Senator Mig Subiri na nanggaling din po ng Kalayaan.
At si Senator
Pero
Ping din po.
Nung panahon po niya, siya po ang una na nakarating po doon.
Well, thank
Salamat
you,
po,
Mr.
Mr. President. Mabuting Ginoo.
Well, let's not delay this any further, Mr. President. I move that we approve and adopt proposed Senate Resolution number 311. And if can be, Mr. President, with the permission of the body, all members of the Senate be made co-authors, Mr. President.
All right. All members of the Senate be made co-authors. And your motion is
To adopt, Mr. President.
to adopt.
Before that, may we also put, for the record, the sponsorship speech of Senator Camille Villar to be inserted into the records.
So inserted. And the motion is to approve or adopt PS Resolution 311. Any objection? Chair hears none. Resolution 311 is hereby adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe the family will be here tomorrow to receive the adopted resolution. With that, Mr. President, there being no other matters, I move that we adjourn session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Tuesday, February 24, 2026. I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, the session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Tuesday, February 24, 2026.
Thank you, Mr. President.